welcome back everybody to Overdunk episode 51. My name is Zoinks, and this is a competitive Pokemon Unite podcast. Thank you everyone so much for your support on the last episode. Q&A and a look back was fantastic. I had a ton of fun, and of course, I am joined today by my three wonderful co-hosts. Snacks, welcome back to Overdunk, of course. How are you today?
Doing good, feeling good. Just like the caption says, lots of tournaments to talk about. Busy weekend.
Yeah, Unite feels like it is full in swing again. Lazadin, how has your week been?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Pretty chill, all things considered, relative to how it could have been considering the amount of tournaments.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were able to handle it in stride. That's good. That's good. Ender, how about you? How was your week?
Loving it. You know, Pokemon Unite, the season feels like it's getting started again, which is exciting. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, it really does feel like it's starting in earnest now, which is awesome. And yeah, like the stream title says, today I've titled so many tournaments because not just here, but sort of worldwide, we have tournaments happening more and more. The two major ones we're going to be discussing today on today's show are the Floatstone Invitational, put on by Rex. Thank you, Rex, for putting on a great tournament for the community. And we had a lot of North America teams play. We had one EU team play who did some pretty fantastic things in that event. And of course, we're going to discuss the Asia Champions League, which we talked a little bit about the last couple of episodes, but we haven't really sunk our teeth into it yet. But all that changes today here on episode 51. So let's get into it. Let's just jump right into tournament recap, and let's talk about the Floatstone Invitational to start. I will pull it up on screen so everybody can see what I am talking about. We're looking at the Battlefy bracket. You can see here, Ascended, Lazadin, of course, your squad, was given the #1 seed in this event, and this was filled with just a ton of well-known teams. Pop, Kunamatana, Lady and the Tramps. I don't know who's on that squad. Is that... I don't know. Now I need to look. Who is on Lady and the Tramps?
That is Junkie, Rima, Chaotic.
Got it. Okay, OG Muck. Yeah. So Muck and Rima's new team. Very cool. Let's zoom in a bit more so you can see it on stream. Sweet. So another ton of good players. Enigma, who had a kind of a crazy run in this tournament. Spinal was playing to YouTube. Rex fans, which kind of Yeet fan, and Rex and company. Nouns, of course. God Squad, Shadow Snipers, TTV, Stream Team, Dream Team. The Cowboys showed up for this one. GT was playing. VI Pandas was playing. A lot of teams that are well known were invited to this event. It was really exciting. I think over 20 teams. Pretty great tournament from my side of watching things. But Ender, you actually competed in this one. How did Floatstone Invitational feel for your squad?
It's not bad. You know, not to make excuse or anything, but we were missing one of our players.
Right.
So we had a sub, and one of our players was had been awake for over 30 hours, so he was not quite there. But you know, it was a good tournament. You know, good taste of draft, which was exciting, and it's overall fun. I enjoyed it.
That's a certified auto classic.
Yeah. It really is. It's just a certified gamer classic, I think. When you're one of our players is up for 30 plus hours, it happens. It does happen. Snakes, were you able to catch any of this tournament that was going on here, this Floatstone Invitational?
I was able to catch a little bit. For me, the big standout, of course, you mentioned it, Enigma's run, going through quite a few teams. And I'm just glad to see some of these players kind of land on their feet, find themselves together. Of course, Pikadiff, a world caliber player, and just a litany of players that we've gotten to cast through the UCS Zoinks. So I'm excited that they came together, really showing the diversity in North America with the strength of the teams coming through. You could point at any one of these teams and say, like, hey, that's today's favorite if they just heat up at the right time. And I think Enigma's a testament to that. So I had a lot of fun checking out that squad and watching their run through the event.
Yeah, they seem like a really, really good new squad. Just if you were listening podcast-wise, this team is made up of Big Uzi, Faz, Bulby, Oblivion, and Pikadiff. I believe that was like the official roster they put on Twitter. Bloodline was the sub on this one, or am I wrong about that?
I think you got it right.
That sounds right.
Originally the team was the Big Uzi, Bloodline, Faz, Oblivion, and Bulby.
Right.
But then they made the last minute switch from Bloodline
Mhm.
to Pigadiff.
Yeah, and it seems like that's what they're sticking with. It seems like Pikatif is going to be their option of choice. So, yeah, I mean, a really, really great new squad. They had, we talked about such a good run they had. They beat out Team YouTube. They beat out Rex Fans, which is made up of a ton of really solid players, despite their pretty low seed in this tournament. But then, of course, they beat Ascended 2-1. Pretty nice result. They did end up losing to Nouns, who did win the whole thing, but they were also able to take down GT. So another really solid squad that has been playing well consistently over the offseason. GT also having a roster change recently. Black CH going to LATAM to play for the next season, not sticking out with the GT squad. So a bit of a heartbreak to see Black not playing in my home region of North America. I love that player a lot, but I know they're going to do great things over there as well. Talk to me, Lazen, how were you following along with the crowd here with Ascended quite a bit throughout their run?
Yeah, I was mostly just casually watching. They didn't really want me to do any like heavy scouting or anything. They wanted to mostly just rely on their own hands, so to speak.
Cool.
It was an interesting thing to watch. It definitely exposed a lot of. I mean, like, you know, whenever you have a roster change, there's a lot of things that, you know, need to change with the way you guys communicate and how you evaluate, not like the way the game is played, and not to mention like the world. Like, we're no longer in a hoopo world, right? Like,
Right.
team fights in the late game especially have gotten so much more complicated, and small mistakes can cost you so much more.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm not going to make any excuses, but it definitely has opened up our eyes to a lot of things we need to be better at.
It's true. Also, if someone's tapping into their mic, just
Apologies.
avoid that. No, you're good. You're good. Just podcasters are gonna hate me. That's the only thing. But okay, cool. Well, hey, if you have to learn every single tournament, and hey, listen, a top 4 finish is still a pretty solid one in a tournament as stacked as this one. So, if you're learning from top 4 finishes, I think you're doing pretty solid work out there. My thoughts on the tournament are kind of feeling the same way as everybody else. I thought it was a very fun, pretty well run tournament, of course. I was casting everything up until the grand finals. So if you want to check those out, on our Twitch channel, the VOD should still be up. I'm solo casting those, so it's a little subpar, but hey, we do what we can. It was really enjoyable. The games were really, really fun. I don't know. We talked about the top of the show how it feels like the season is truly back, and I think we're even seeing that from quality of play. I don't know if all of you agree with me on this, but it just feels like the teams have a bit more skin in the game, for lack of a better term. Like, it just feels like people are trying harder now instead of just, you know, showing up for some off-season tournaments, you know, punching the clock kind of thing. It feels like teams are really wanting to win, and being a bit more competitive in that sense. Do you all feel the same way, or do you feel like we're still got some warm-up to do before the main season starts?
I think both are true. I think these teams are warming up. They're trying to find their footing. They're trying to find their rosters that they're going to take. I mean, the February event is literally a month away now. So there's not a lot of time left. So tournaments like this are not only a great litmus test for where you sit, but what direction you want to move your team, what adjustments you need to make, because you don't have that long to do it. So that actually checked both boxes. I think the competitive level is increasing, but I also think we're still warming up as teams are trying to figure out exactly what these rosters are going to shake out to be going into February.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with Snacks's assessment there. I can tell you, like, from behind the scenes, like, basically every single team is like restarted scrims. Like, everybody is really starting to go back to grinding the way we're supposed to. Everybody, like, you know, like that first qualifier and that first monthly final, while it's probably not worth that many points, we don't have the exact numbers yet. That seeding can really matter and can make your life for the rest of the year extremely easy or extremely difficult. So
yeah, that's very true.
It's an important one to show up in. So I think everybody's trying to get back to their game.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Ender, how about you? Vibes on TTV? Feeling a bit more competitive, bit more try-hardy, or how do you feeling?
We're getting there. I mean, there's like degrees of try hard, you know.
Sure.
And you know, we're definitely things have elevated from the off season, but still a lot of room to grow. Like definitely terms of the amount we're tryharding, the amount we're playing. But I know we'll get there.
All right. Yeah, TTV, sorry, the whip has not come down yet. Ender is pushing you even farther, but I obviously I'm excited for your team's results. Yeah, well, we haven't really talked about the finals yet either. Unfortunately, I was not able to cast this one, but the grand finals was between Nouns Esports, who I think was a very funny Twitter announcement from Rex, was NA and Nouns, which was awesome. However, they came and they did their thing. They were second seed in the tournament. It was second seed versus fourth seed, Nouns versus Enigma, and Nouns won this one 2-0. A bit of an easier route than it was a run back. Winners finals was 2-1, won by Nouns, which was a really exciting game. Nouns playing with a bit of a new roster as well. New roster or just with a sub, I believe.
I think they had 2 subs.
They had 2 subs? Okay. Yes.
I think they were playing with Blaine.
Oh yeah.
Right, they're playing with Blaine and they were playing with Utah. Yeah. And so that means that Geese and Redma were both not participating in this tournament. Okay. Yeah. All right, 2 subs, but if you want solid subs on your squad, I mean, it is tough to find a better attacker player in EU than Utah. That has been my opinion this entire offseason and even near the end of last season. I think they are incredible. They were age restricted from competing in official Unite, like in-person events last year. That is no longer going to be the case. This player is sick, and I am very excited to see what Utah could do going forward. We got to see a little bit this tournament, and it was awesome. Their Mew gameplay was really fantastic. I think they were just skill gapping a lot of players who are very good in this game with that character. It was awesome to see. And yeah, Blaine getting the call up from Towel Boy to main roster. You'd love to see it.
Is Blaine truly the Towel Boy? I thought he was more, I guess he's like the team manager, so yeah, I guess that makes sense. But Blaine's a great person. He's scrimming with them all the time. If you pop into like Bruv stream or Gatler stream. So certainly, you know, I don't want to say they miss their other players, but like you said, I mean, two great people to just slot in, and clearly it panned out as they were able to run roughshod over this majorly stacked North American tournament as the only EU team. So credits to them. Shout out to Blaine for keeping the squad on the swivel and being able to step in when the team needs them. Real Bobby Boucher water boy type situation.
Absolutely. We even got like a throwback all the way to the Yerman's gameplay of the rollout Wiggly. We saw the rollout Wiggly in winners finals. I was very excited. Just really felt like OG Blaine playing again, which was awesome. So really excited to see that. But yeah, any thoughts on Nouns from you two, Inder, Lazadin? What do you think of this squad right now? I mean, Lazadin, your team had to compete against them for the World Championship. They are the runner-up. I mean, they're looking really strong. Nouns always seems like that team that can just turn it on whenever they need to, and just take over games. They have a lot of superstar talent. What would you call the biggest threat of Nouns Esports?
Depends on if I was mistaken about Utah or not. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, that is true. We'll find out where they end up. Yeah, that is true.
I'm second guessing myself now because I see his name when there was listed as Nouns Utah, and I'm not sure if that was a joke.
Yeah.
I
never trust Utah's screen names specifically, by the way. Them and Yikes have a different screen name every tournament, and it makes me want to put my head through my monitor. So that is one thing I do not respect about that player. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So like, if Utah was actually announced, that would definitely be like the biggest like change in threat to look into.
Okay.
But obviously, like, you know, like it's one of the things that's really scary about Nouns in particular is it's hard to pinpoint the like who is the biggest threat because they're all very threatening. They have a very unique way of playing the game. They work really well together as a team. Extremely innovative strategies. Like if I had to like really pin it on one person, maybe Adesu, maybe Gotlu, like one of those two. Adesu for like his mechanical prowess and Gotlu for being one of the like main idea guys in the team, but it's hard to give any one of them credit for how successful that team has been.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always want to shout out Bruv on this squad because it really seems like Bruv is the most consistent level-headed player in a group just full of wild cards. just well, maybe Redmaw. Redmaw also one of the most consistent performing Lucario players that we've seen in EU. But then all of a sudden, Gatlu and Adesu and Geese can just all of a sudden pop up and win you a game randomly. But then Brev's just doing Brev things. Redmaw's doing Redmaw things. But Inder, how about you? Assessment on Nouns?
I mean, I think they called themselves Random Gaming initially for a reason.
Okay.
They definitely feel very comfortable playing. And it might not be random to them, but to everyone else, a lot of the things that they like to do seem random. And no, I mean they seem very comfortable busting out picks that other teams might not consider the meta, and at times they can be very meta defining as well. So I think draft will be, draft will definitely help their team a lot in terms of their competitiveness, and we'll have to see how they approach draft in the future as well. But really, I really I really respect how they're willing to experiment and try out different things, even if I might not necessarily agree personally with some of the stuff they do. They definitely seem to be confident in themselves, which is good, and it pays off.
Random is the team, or Nouns is the team that could literally play 5 random characters in a tournament, and they would convince you that it was a pre-planned strategy.
Absolutely. They have the skill for it, right? Which is really, really cool. Adesu specifically, I think you could, and Gatlu, I guess, you could give those players a comb and they would make a tournament look good. Deuce next. Any more thoughts on Nouns Esports? What do you think is their biggest threat? What makes them really, really good?
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to kind of get past what their biggest threat would be, which would be the only team that beat them at the World Championships in the finals, right? That's got to be like inherently a threat. That's the reason they got the 2 seed and Ascended got the 1st seed. That being said, Nouns Esport, great showing here. Everybody's trying to find their footing, blah, blah, blah. But if we're talking about individual members, you mentioned Redmaw's consistency, but don't forget, and we saw it at the World Championships a few times, where it kind of feel like it's if you ever watch the OG documentary when Seb just kind of leaps in, he's like, "This is my game. I got it. All on me." I kind of feel like that's the type of Redmaw energy, just some conversations I've had. Kind of like, I'll always do my thing. I'll always do my thing. But when the team just randomly needs a spark from not Adesu, not Gatlu, he'll just step up and go, "Hey, take a break this one. It's on me." And then they'll just roll through with like 11 KOs and a crazy amount of damage, like a spiked game out of nowhere. And then you go, "Oh, well, that's Redmaw." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like captain consistency across the board, but also has the ability to like hard carry when everybody else is kind of having maybe faltering or having a mental break or something like that. So got to give the credit to Redmaw there, and again, credit to the squad of making it and winning this event without that type of key player that you have on their squad. I mean, Nouns is clearly going to be one of the favorites going into next year. I don't think that's any shock to anyone. I'm really interested to see if what we saw out of this particular event leads us to who we think our early NA favorites are going to be, because the field looks far more open for NA than for EU in particular.
Yeah, I just feel like we don't have the data on EU yet. Their tournament scene has been really lacking ever since Rush stopped. It's been really hard for EU, and I know that a lot of players are really frustrated with that, and I hope that Pump is carrying, right? Pump is carrying the tournament scene in EU, and they've put together some fantastic ones, which is awesome. But yeah, we just need more for EU, and I wish that Unite Mike's had some more weekend availability, but just Doopsnax and I are both so crazy busy that it just doesn't always work out for time zone wise. But we'll figure something out for EU. Yeah, Spraggles also, thank you so much for the sub. Wanted to give a hundo burger to Inder. So congratulations, Inder. You do earn one.
Quick note to Spraggles there. If you want a hundo burger somebody, just use your Unite Mike's emote, hundo burger.
Okay, sure. Yeah, teach them how to use it. One last thing before we jump away from the Flossen Invitational. A little bit about Noun's strategy. Something I was noticing a lot in their draft is that Bruv was pretty much the only player I saw lock in Clefable after Clefable after Clefable, because Blissey was just getting banned against their team every time. Inder, you are a support main. Inder, you are a support main. You live and breathe these Pokemon. Do you think the Clefable is faded? Do you think it's bad, or do you think that it's a sleeper pick right now?
No, I don't think it would be foolish to consider that Pokemon bad. It's got a lot of very unique things in its kit. It definitely does feel like a weaker version of Blissey,
Right.
and a less consistent version of Blissey. Obviously, the Unite move. I enjoy the Pokemon. I think Follow Me is an incredibly strong move, especially in the right circumstances. Both Draining Kiss and Moonlight seem to be viable. I'm not a fan of the Unite move at all. I just dislike randomness, but I guess I mean X Random Gaming Nouns Esports for them. Random
Sure.
is the name of the game, right? But I mean, we played a warm-up ladder game against them in the like before the tournament. Both of us were just warming up, and the game was, fairly even. We had some good spikes. We were winning. They were winning, and then they came to the bottom pad, and Bruv rolled Explosion on his Unite move, and the people defending the pad died. And I'm like, well, I guess sometimes you just get explosioned by Clefable, and that's that.
Yeah.
So
5%, by the way.
yeah, I think it might be less than 5, right? Because it's 5 with either way. I mean, 5% is still ridiculous. And not being able to control that, not being able to see what the enemy Clefable has, definitely a double-edged sword. So I like them on the Unite move. Definitely freaks me out a little bit. Sometimes you can just get like Hydro Pump when you need Hyper Beam, which Hyper Beam happens to be one of the best secures in the game for Clefable. But no, I think it's a good mon. Definitely has a lot of potential. I think it's definitely being slept on a little bit. But that being said, in the realm of like supports and tanks, there's a lot of good Pokemon it's competing with, right? There's Blissey, Snorlax, Mamoswine, Mr. Mime, so Sableye, like all the other supporters in the game. Like there's a lot in the field that Clefable has to compete with.
My bad, 3%.
3%. Okay, even worse. All right. Well, I think that brings us to a close on the Floatstone Invitational. If you aren't watching on stream, prepare your eyes. It's going to go from a black screen to a white screen rather quickly. But okay, here we go. Pokemon Unite Asia Champions League 2023. Kind of the inaugural season of this league. Still blown away by that logo. It's so good. Anyway, format pretty straightforward. 3 different groups. East Asia, SEA, and India. All have, I believe they all have 5 teams. Is that correct? Yes. Yes. Okay. All teams have 5 teams, and the first week of said tournament has happened. That means that each of these teams, except for one, which gets the bye, plays 1 game in their group stage or round robin stage. So let's talk about East Asia first. Participants of this is T2. No Mame on this T2 version of T2. More on that later. Secret Ship, No Show, Eternity, and High Five. All 4 teams, except for the last one, High Five, were automatically invited to this tournament. So all from World Championships invites from last year. They got invited to the tournament. High Five made it through the Taiwan Open Championship. One more thing of recap. So far, Eternity beat Secret Ship into their game, and High Five beat T2. So both Japanese teams starting out 0-1 in the group stage, and No Show has yet to play. They'll be playing next week. So yeah, we were watching some of these games last night, Lazadin. What are you thinking about East Asia?
I think that they were doing pretty good. Like, I was a little concerned after the Winter Tourney, because the Winter Tourney I thought was, could have been better gameplay wise, but no, like they've definitely dialed it up a lot. Especially, I was super impressed with High Five. Like that team really put on an excellent showing. And the T2 Eternity games were very, very close, with a couple of admittedly pretty disastrous mistakes kind of defining them, but like all in all, the gameplay was pretty solid, and I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching those games. My sentiments are the same with you on High Five, but I think a lot of people who watch these games, I think they're the unknown quantity, so we're always going to be looking at them a little bit closer than any other team. So take that with a grain of salt. That being said, they really popped off. Great moments. Their macro seemed fantastic to me. Their drafting was pretty good. I mean, some interesting choices, but those could just be comfort picks that I'm not aware of. But like fantastic last minute end game team fights. These final 2 minutes were amazing. I was really impressed with them. BKZ, if that's how they want to have their name pronounced, unbelievably good. They played Luca, they played Urshifu, pretty much just the main secure tool for their team every single time. So strong. So good. Very impressed with that player. But yeah, and then Eternity went on to beat Secret Ship 2-1. Think Secret Ship probably should have won that game number 3. We talked about that, but that's what happened. Inder, did you watch any of these games yet?
I did, yeah. I watched them live. I don't know. I was impressed. Similar ideas. I5 definitely came out swinging, and no, I think the games were solid. Obviously, mistakes here and there, but I think one thing we have to remember is a lot of these teams, and you hinted at earlier, aren't playing with their consistent roster. We don't really know how much they're gonna be practicing. Like a lot of shuffles happened based on the invitational format
Right.
for this tournament. So a lot of it just could be, them shaking off the rust or just playing with people they're not very used to playing with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And Duvnex, were you able to catch any of these games or see some Twitter clips of them? I saw some of those going around too, but
A little bit of a combination of both. I think I'm like everybody else. I'm just energized to see what this high five squad can bring to the table. A big time win over a big time team is nothing to scoff at. I know you mentioned T2 is not playing with Mame, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that's 4 other very good players that are on that team.
Yeah.
And high five being able to take that win in convincing fashion definitely needs to be bookmarked and thought about for later moving forward as we're kind of keeping an eye on the Asia Champions League for this East Asia group.
Yeah, for sure. Eternity also having some new players. No Sejun on this squad anymore, but some really solid team members there. Able to take down Secret Ship, obviously. Meta notes that I kind of took watching East Asia. East Asia still loves Aegislash. They really do like that Pokemon. They love putting it in bottom path. I like the Pokemon myself to play it. I don't think it's as good as they believe it to be. I don't. Maybe if Wide Guard really pops off and your timings are amazing, Aegislash, yeah, absolutely. But
I don't know how any Asian team can watch over those games and go like, "Yep, Aegislash is the pick." Like, I don't understand it.
We saw both. We saw Shadowclaw and we saw Sacred Sword. It never got the value that I thought it did. Yeah, Spriggles is saying that Dragonite too. I think Dragonite outvalued Aegislash every single game. I think Dragonite is just the better pick, like almost every single time.
Yeah, I thought the D-Knight looked fine.
Yeah, in my personal pick from what I was watching of those games. Inder, how do you feel about Aegislash right now in the meta?
Aegislash feels like really hit or miss. It's got it has similar problems that it always did, where it's got a decent early game, and then it's mid game when it's in that do blade form kind of struggles, and then it picks up if it's had a good enough mid game and it's able to get out. But the nerfs definitely hurt in terms of your clear speed, in terms of your secure, and that definitely came into play in this tournament or in the games there. I don't think the Pokemon's bad. I think draft is definitely in the format where we'll see it get some picks. But I think I agree. I'm not sure I would value it as highly as some of these teams are.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking the space of the bottom path attacker a lot of the time. And I just feel like so many of these teams would just benefit from having a bit more range damage in their compositions. But maybe I'll be proven wrong once we see it clash again. But yeah, Aegislash, middling results definitely in this tournament. In my opinion, I liked the Dragonite when that was being favored as the big secure tool a lot more. Any more thoughts on East Asia before we move on to SEA?
Yeah, there was another thing that I think was very interesting about their meta. While they also do favor Scyther very highly, which makes perfect sense to me, yeah. They had a very, very unusually high priority for Ninetales.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't just
the otter bug has bitten.
No, but even Otter would admit that you don't want to be first round drafting it, right? Like,
even he wouldn't commit to that. Yeah, maybe.
Otter is the number 1 Ninetales simp. Well, maybe number 2. But
yeah.
But I found that very peculiar, and it definitely did put in some of the work in some of those games. So I can see why they respect the pick, and I definitely respect the pick too. I'm not too confident on it as a first round pick.
Yeah, Aurivale is a I don't know, a very, very good ability in the hands of the correct player. Placement and timing are unbelievably important with that move, and I think it can really swing team fights. I saw Alolan Ninetales get out of fights that they should have never escaped time and time again while watching it happen, so I think it is good. You are correct, though. Draft priority is a very interesting discussion with this Pokemon. One thing that does need to be said, or discussed at least, is emblems are on for this tournament. Is that correct? Am I right in
Yes.
saying that?
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so A9 does get a pretty solid buff from emblems, if I am not mistaken. So, yeah, maybe it's just a more powerful pick in that metagame where emblems are involved. So that is some kind of credence. Deucenex, you mentioned the Otterbuck being utilized here. What are your thoughts on the Alolan Ninetales? Do you think it's a good Pokemon to have in the draft priority? Like, are you that scared of your opponents picking it before you?
Are you asking if old Snacks is worried about Ninetales getting picked early? The answer is no.
Okay.
However, how many times have we seen Otter in the first 2 picks on the hop force the squad to grab Ninetales for no reason? So, you don't know what you're not afraid of, and sometimes it's less of the other team picking it, more of you want to guarantee yourself the peace of mind. And if you think that you're offered flexibility other places, like there's scenarios you can dream up for anything, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
So would I naturally be concerned about it? About the metas that I'm most familiar with, NA and tangentially EU? No. But if there's if Worlds taught us anything last year, and if this event is just they play different. There's different approaches, there's different stylings, and the stock of A9 may be going up due to emblems, due to core strategies, due to the natural counter picking that it offers to maybe other common strategies within the region. So hemming and hawing around. Again, to answer your question, am I concerned about it? No. Can I see a world where it's much more different consideration or process tree that you think through for the Asian groups? Without a doubt.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I think to keep in mind for A9 that makes it suit the Asian meta really well is they really enjoy doing like split jungle kind of tactics.
That is true.
And A9 is a phenomenal Pokemon in that meta, right? You can take the red buff, you instantly hit level 4, and within the first minute of the game you have a red buff in the top lane. Generally where we see like a stacking Pokemon or a very vulnerable Pokemon in that stage of the game, right? Like it can really bully out. And you can kind of just put the A9 anywhere. It doesn't really show what your strategy is. You can go in the bottom lane. You could 2-on-2 with another range character top. I mean, do I think it's like one of the best Pokemon in the game to first pick? Probably not. But it also, with the amount of good Pokemon that exists in the pool, you're going to end up getting something good anyways. So if A9 is something that is incredibly flexible and these teams really enjoy playing it, I think it works fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for clarity, because I don't want to I want to be clear, it was never picked first on blue side. It was sometimes picked on like the first round on red side, and sometimes picked second round blue side. I never saw it first pick blue side, but yeah, like that's the priority it got, was about there.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw it got to round 3, like ever.
Yeah. No. It was second round red a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's jump over to SEA. So this and then this and then this. All right, so SEA, the teams that are competing here are Renaissance, Team MYS. I thought they were going by Mystic, maybe not, just Team MYS, Rise, Escape V, and Secret Rare. One thing about rosters, I'll go back here for a second. Renaissance is playing with Kamiro, Mevius, Ruvius, Ice, Solo, and Dev. So Ice and Solo were both previous no Lucario or Orangutan players, and are now playing with kind of Kamiro and company on Renaissance. And then MYS, I believe, is a couple of the Renaissance players that have moved over to this team. So Yang and Rebongs specifically are the ones that I'm thinking of are playing on this. They played through the Malaysia Open to get to this tournament. Renaissance was invited via the World Championship. Secret Rare qualified through the Philippines Open. Escape V qualified through the Thailand Open. And Rise qualified through the Indonesian Open. So Renaissance, the only invited team here to SEA. I guess because no Lucario splits, or because they wanted an open tournament in each of these regions. I'm not too sure. But either way, let's jump to the results. So Renaissance won their game 2-0 over Escape Fee. Seemed like Renaissance kind of ran away with that one from what I was watching. Renaissance seems really good. Kamiru, what looked like to me, just I'll call it power picked the Dragapult in that game. I don't think Dragapult's exceptionally strong right now, but I do think that Kamiru was confident they could beat that team, so I think that's why that pick was made. I kind of know that player's personality leans towards things like that, so I think that was kind of just Kamiru things happening there. MYS had a bit of a closer game against Secret Rare, 2-1 in that regard. I didn't watch this one live. I actually watched Chris Hero's casting over this one. He did a fantastic job. Miss won with like draft in at least one of those games, like really hard. They picked Tyranitar, and Secret Rare had 5 melee Pokemon up against it, and I was like, well.
Oh dear.
Like, that is unfortunate. And Rebongs just got to go wild on Tyranitar, and it was a Tyranitar highlight reel of a game. If you like that Pokemon, go check out the Team Miss versus Secret Rare series, because you will have your heart's content in that matchup. So it was a very interesting one for sure. But yeah, other than that, anyone's thoughts on SEA so far? We're only one game in from a couple of teams, but any thoughts from these players?
Go ahead, Indy.
I was gonna say I watched these games live, and while there was some interesting kind of drafts and some item builds and some gameplay, I do want to say I was really impressed with their gameplay and a lot of the meta evolutions that they've had. Like we saw teams like after the first rotation of the jungle and the first set of Altarias, like invading as groups, but then we also saw the enemy team expecting that invade to happen, assuming that these teams are scrimming against each other, and they've kind of built themselves into their own meta, which was really, really cool to see.
That is cool.
A lot of preparation, and I saw a draft where Renaissance went, I believe it was Renaissance, they went like triple tank, and they went for like a tank chokeout strategy where they just took like Mime, Snorlax, and I think Blissey, and just made it so the other enemy team didn't have a lot of tank options, which was really impressive to see. So I had a lot of fun watching these games, and I was really, really impressed.
Snacks, were you wanted to say something about SEA here?
Yeah, real quick. So after talking with RT a little bit last season and tracking some of these teams, Rise has a couple names that I am familiar with, just having cast some of those events doing casting practice. So I know they didn't get to play in this first week, so they're kind of sitting in the middle of the pack at the 0-0 record. But I'm excited for them to show up and show out. I think they have a really good opportunity here, specifically with how this invite structure works. So I'd like to see them really put the pedal to the metal and prove themselves here, because they did have some very good moments last year in their local region events against a lot of these teams that they've played. So I know they've squared up against Renaissance and formerly No Lucario, aka Orangutan, quite a bit. Secret Rare as well is not an unknown quantity. So that's just kind of who I've got my eye on out of this particular group to see what they can do.
Cool. Lazadin, any thoughts on SEA?
I didn't get the chance to watch too much of the SEA games. I just ended up finishing the one series. I mean, I guess that's half the games then.
Yeah.
But it was definitely very interesting. There was a little bit of, I will say, cockiness on Renaissance's side. Like, it definitely felt like they were very confident going into that series. So it was kind of hard to really... When one of the teams seems to be so confident that they'd win, it's hard to trust their picks, right? So I'm not entirely sure if that's the way they actually want to play the meta. So it'll be very interesting to see how it evolves, maybe as they go against a team they're less confident in beating.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, when I see these, when I see a team like Renaissance and then these other teams that I know of, some players, I don't know everybody, and this is maybe a little bit more true for India when we talk about that region, is what I'm mainly watching for is like, does one team run away with the whole thing, or is this a really competitive, like there are multiple teams vying for this one. That's like the first thing I like to take a look out for, just because it's a really good team to have on your radar going forward in the season, obviously. But then I liked it because whenever that happens, Inder, you were a part of this. When one team just dominates tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament at the start of a season, they are the pace car for whatever meta is happening. Like every team is going to try to either play what they're playing or beat what they're playing. And so I am. That is one thing that I really like to look forward to, and I think Asia Champions League will be kind of a similar hint of that in at least one of these three regions. But yeah. Okay, cool. So Renaissance and Team MOS won up 1-1. Dupesnack's a team that you're really excited to see rise. Will be going up against Team MOS next week. So they are 0-0, but a team 1-0 is going to be their opponents next time, which will be really cool to see where they both stand playing against one of the winners. All right, let's jump to India. This is definitely, I think, the region that all of us know the least about. Revenant is playing in this tournament. They have the World's Invite. Almost all the same players: Crowley, Zesel, Nova, Blizzard. I think I'll remember. I don't know if I remember for Swifty. God's Reign is in here. Macros Gaming, True Rippers, and S8UL are all participating in this tournament. 4 teams from the India Open, and then Revenant getting the World's Championship invite. Results-wise, Revenant won their game 2-0 against SAUL, and True Rippers beat God's Reign 2-1 as well. Macros having the bye. Inder, were you watching these ones live too?
After 2 days of staying up all night,
Okay.
I was not able to keep it going for day 3, so I did miss out on these.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I also watched the draft of the first game and said, you know what, I'm going to bed, and
Sure.
That was the end of it.
Yeah, that's a different style for sure. That would be True Rippers and God's Reign. So neither team that we have too much information on. I remember seeing some community tournaments though in the past, and I know both God's Reign and True Rippers, I think, have had decent results. I don't think anybody's beating Revenant, but I think that they have been competitive with each other. But definitely, I'm going to have to be keeping an eye on this region as I just don't know as much. Dupesnnax, do you have any more information on this region?
Yeah, real quick. One, I'm excited that we have more matches of the India region to watch as opposed to, having to kind of do some scramble studying at the end of last season to really try and figure out what these teams are all about. Worth noting is Omen has left Revenant and jumped onto God's Reign, and they were a key component in Revenant, which is why you saw a new name on Revenant Esports, and they're over on God's Reign. So that's that switch that you kind of identified but weren't sure exactly how that shook out.
Yeah.
I can't say, I'm truly a believer in past experiences, and I think Revenant Esports just kind of is going to be head and shoulders above the rest of this group just based on that experience. And they've got, like I kind of chirped a whole bunch about last year, Crowley, just their MOBA experience across the map on playing in international stages and being able to carry a team to those competitive levels cannot be understated. Now, we saw them obviously kind of run rampant through the India region, but it's up to these other 4 players here to step up to the plate. I was actually speaking with Crowley after the event in London last year, and he was like, there was a lot of nerves, a lot of fresh faces, and we're hoping that next year, with some of those shaken out after having been on the big stage, we can get back to focus on playing. So, I'm hoping that they've kind of put the target forward. They've tunnel visioned a little bit, and their path forward sees some success not only in this Asia League for the India region, but as well if they were to qualify for Worlds, have a stronger showing that I know that they thought they were capable of and didn't quite meet their own expectations there.
Cool. Okay. Well,
One thing I'm really interested in seeing actually is specifically Revenant versus True Rippers, whenever that happens, because I very quickly just looked back at the APIs of those games just to see how they turned out. Both of those series, from the looks of it, seem pretty one-sided. So I would like to see we have 2 people completely dominating a series. I'd really like to see what happened if they went head-to-head.
Yeah, just if they had a really strong start, let's see what that. So that'll be not this coming week end, but the following. So January 22nd is when Revenant will face up against True Rippers.
Sick.
Cool. Yeah,
One thing we did see, I took a look at some of the drafts, and they had a really, really high priority for Tyranitar. It
Okay.
got first banned in one of the games, which
Wow.
resulted in a Azumarill getting first picked as well. So
Wow.
I'm not sure if
Okay.
That was the draft that I decided to go to bed after.
It's different. That's true.
yeah,
Man.
I mean, Tyranitar, when it works out in draft, it as we saw in the SEA games and
Yeah.
or it might have been the East Asia games as well, like it definitely just runs rampant. Like it's a Pokemon that, if given the right circumstances, can go crazy. And it's possible that the Tyranitar first pick didn't get tested well enough into some of the viable counters, and it's just been dominating their scene. So it's always interesting to see how metas develop independently
That
in
is
their own
true.
bubbles. And I know, like, even when my teammates Otter, like, he's a big fan of the India region. He loves India. He's watching some of the games as well. He mentioned the Tyranitar pick. Maybe a Tyranitar meta could be possible. Like, if I start to think, like, what are the ramifications of early Tyranitar picks? There's some possible counters, but also Pokemon can be very, very scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Tyranitar, very strong. I was discussing this with Lazadin, and maybe my opinion should change. I don't know if it's the best of one, but Tyranitar seems like one of the most win-more Pokemon in Unite. Like, I feel like if Tyranitar's winning you the game, you probably were already winning the game, and Tyranitar is just sort of the cherry, like the fantastic cherry on top. I don't know if that's technically completely true, if I completely agree with that, but it really does seem like a little bit of a confirmation bias, the Pokemon, to me. I'm concerned about that Tyranitar pick. I have bad opinions on it, but I mean, if you're running into 5 melee Pokemon that are all rushing at you and you just get to press your Unite move and stomp on them, then hey, all the power to you. Yeah. So that is strong. Awesome. Okay, well, that's going to bring us to the end of tournament recap. Very, very long segment this week. I don't know if we'll go as in-depth to all the ACL games every single week in the future, but we definitely will touch on each of the regions with a bit of an update, talk about any new cool things we saw. But yeah, just our first impressions, we wanted to get really in-depth for the first week end of ACL, which is awesome. Close and Invitationals happening. There's even more tournaments happening in North America and EU coming up very soon. Battle Hub over at the Red Accord is running some fantastic events, so make sure to tune in. And if you're a player, sign up for those tournaments as well. They're really fun. Great places to compete, get more practice outside of just scrims and ladder. Be a good option. Any last thoughts on draft meta and we're kind of seeing it develop, come to a fruition now? We've had many, many tournaments with draft so far. Any big surprises out of this draft meta that have really shocked the three of you?
No, not me.
It's
Not
hard
me
to
so far.
say anything surprising
Yeah.
from the new picks. What I will say related to this, and I never thought I would actually say it, is I'm relieved that they've slowed down the pace of new Pokemon coming.
Absolutely. Yes,
Because
agreed.
we've had some amazing Pokemon come out, but they've all been meta defining, and it's almost exhausting just keeping up with new meta transformations that are coming at the back of a new Pokemon release. So I think the pace that we're going to be moving forward with, which it seems about like one a month and a half, that seems a lot more healthy to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Lassiter?
Just dump them all in off season. Give people something to be hyped about while UCS is away.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I'm so glad we're slowing down though, because like trying to, especially because not only did the off season like have more Pokemon releases, it had less tournaments in general.
Yeah.
So trying to keep up with the metagame, it just felt impossible. Like because you just didn't have the data to analyze, right? And ladder games are great, but also terrible at the same time.
Yeah, that is every
the
esport,
true
by the
epitome of a double-edged sword.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a ladder may hit that.
But yeah, like so it's nice to see it slow down for sure. I think the most interesting thing to come out of draft, I don't think there's been a surprise, but I think like watching the meta shift from like the Urshifu slowly going from this thing that like when it gets picked it feels really powerful, although sometimes it feels a little weird, to actually we must pick or ban this every single game. So watching that shift over time I think was pretty interesting but not unexpected.
Yeah, Wicked Blow is so strong, unbelievable. It took Spraggles to break it down and really convince me of how broken that move is. But yeah, it's god tier. So yes, that Pokemon, some question marks around it, but a must ban definitely is the defining moment for me on this Pokemon. But cool. Let's wrap it up there. I think we got a lot of content for people to dig through in this week. Also, I mentioned at the top of the show, but 50 episodes was awesome. Woo, we did it. The Q&A was really cool. I really liked that part of the show that we did last episode. So going forward for the rest of the show, if you have any questions that you want to ask to any of the hosts here on the show, myself or Doopsnax, Inder, or Lazadin, please feel free to @UniteMics on Twitter, message me, Zoinkscast on Twitter, or just show up in the YouTube comments and drop those questions there. We would love to respond to you and interact with you on the show. That'd be awesome. Other than that, just check it out. Like we said, youtube.com/UniteMics, twitch.com/UniteMics, and on podcast platforms everywhere. But outside of that, I have been Zoinks. They have been Inder, Doopsnax, and Lazadin. This is an awesome season for Pokemon Unite. Let's all enjoy it, and let's enjoy Overdunk next week, Tuesday, same time, same place. See everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.